I am so sorry for the change of voice, but don't worry. I will be still giving you the juicy details in this court case. Ladies and gentlemen, pull up a chair, grab some popcorn, and if you're a juror, put down your phone and close that group chat, because this trial is already off the rails. Monday, June 16th, gave us another episode of The Real Courtroom of Judge Subramanian, starring none other than Sean Diddy Combs and his ever-dramatic, increasingly confused group of jurors. Now you might be thinking, surely, things can't get more chaotic than last week. Oh, but they can. And they did. One juror got the boot. Another one is under suspicion for maybe flapping their gums where they shouldn't. The prosecution and the defense are playing legal tug-of-war. And a legal expert came in swinging, saying this whole juror mess could have been stopped with one simple courtroom power move. You won't believe how it all unfolded. Get ready, because in today's episode of Courtroom Madness, we've got shady jury stories, expert finger-wagging, legal loopholes, and a potential drug mill turned-star witness walking into the courtroom like it's a season finale. Let's break it all down. So, the sun had barely risen on Monday, June 16th, before the courtroom hit DEFCON 5, right before testimony even began. Bam! Juror number 6 was dismissed. Just like that. Gone. Poof. Vanished like Diddy's last album on the Billboard charts. Now, this wasn't a sudden decision. This particular juror had already raised some eyebrows last week when the prosecution side-eyed him and said, "This guy's address and story just isn't matching." They claimed he'd recently moved to New Jersey with his girlfriend and was crashing there most nights. But when asked, the juror had a different remix to his life story, saying he stayed in New York for the 5 nights a week. His daughter was born in Jersey, but he lives in NYC. Basically, he delivered a geography lesson that had everyone scratching their heads. Judge Subramanian pulled him aside behind closed doors, hoping to make sense of the GPS confusion. But instead of clarity, the juror served up a pile of contradictions. Finally, the judge hit his limit and said, and I quote, "There is nothing the juror can say at this point that can put the genie back in the bottle and repair his credibility." And with that, poof, juror number 6 was shown the door and swapped out for the first alternate. But wait, just when we thought the courtroom could take a breather, another juror popped up on the radar. Yes, juror drama round 2. Apparently, there were whispers that this new juror had been chatting with a former colleague about their jury service. And not just casual water cooler stuff either. Potentially spilling courtroom info like it's hot gossip over brunch. The U.S. Attorney's Office submitted a letter to the court saying, "We're not totally against digging deeper into this," but added a sharp note, "We're not jumping on Diddy's defense bandwagon just yet either." Meanwhile, Combs' legal team was practically holding open the jury room door like, "Come on now. Time to go." Enter the stage legal expert David S. Seltzer, here to sprinkle in some spicy commentary and serve courtroom realness. Speaking exclusively to Fox News Digital, he straight up said this whole situation could have been dodged if Judge Subramanian had just sequestered the jury from the very beginning. Now, for those not fluent in courtroom lingo, sequestering the jury basically means putting them in a little legal bubble, hotel room. No outside contact, no news, no social media, no chit-chat at dinner. Not even a nosy glance at a TMZ headline. According to Seltzer, that's what should have happened. His take: "This jury is now tainted," he said. "We've got jurors talking about the case outside the courtroom, even though they were explicitly told not to." He practically yelled, "Why weren't they sequestered on day one?" Seltzer also pointed out just how impossible this stay in a bubble instruction really is. He said jurors were told not to scroll social media, not to check the news, not to talk to their spouse partner or the person next to them on the train. And honestly, that's asking a lot in the age of push notifications and chatty baristas. Seltzer called it an impossible task and said the real shock is that none of the jurors have been dismissed yet for breaking these rules, except the one who got bounced over the whole living in 2 places at once saga. Former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani chimed in too and backed that up. He told Fox News Digital that when it comes to courtroom etiquette, the rules are crystal clear. Keep your lips sealed. You can say you're on a jury and how long it might last. Ramani explained, but that's it. If you start talking about the case, that's grounds for immediate dismissal. So, with one juror already out and another skating on thin ice, this courtroom is starting to feel more like a reality show elimination round than a federal trial. Back to juror number 6 for a moment. Diddy's legal team actually wanted to keep him on the case. And no, not because he was great at geography. It was due to concerns about maintaining racial and ethnic diversity on the jury. They argued that if he were dismissed, it might skew the fairness of the jury pool. In fact, they said that if he was booted, they might even ask for a mistrial. But Judge Subramanian shut that down. He acknowledged the concern, but firmly stated that this jury does not raise issues of diversity and emphasized that there was no evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. Now, despite the backstage juror shenanigans, Seltzer gave credit where it's due. He said Diddy's legal team has been killing it so far. They're doing what's needed under the law, filing their motions, preserving their arguments for possible appeal, but not going all in on the mistrial strategy just yet. Seltzer thinks they're playing a smart long game. And here's the real tea. He doesn't think the prosecution's case is all that strong. In fact, he boldly said, "I don't see the government meeting their burden beyond a reasonable doubt." Translation: they haven't proved enough for a conviction. Now, the prosecution is hoping to land a few more punches before the final bell. On Tuesday, they're bringing in Brendan Paul, remember him? The guy labeled Diddy's alleged drug courier. And guess what? He's got immunity. That means he can walk into that courtroom, spill all the beans, and walk out untouched. The prosecution's hoping this guy will deliver something explosive, but with immunity in his pocket, he might just keep things squeaky clean. Seltzer doesn't think Diddy will testify at all. According to him, the defense will probably keep it tight, maybe call a couple of expert witnesses, but no dramatic courtroom speeches from Mr. Combs himself. Their strategy is to stay minimal and focused, while the government tries to convince the jury that Diddy's lifestyle is enough to land him in hot water. But Seltzer made one thing clear: just because someone looks like a bad guy or lives wild doesn't make them a criminal. In his eyes, the witnesses brought in so far have all said the same thing. They agreed to be there. And if that's the case, then Diddy may be a controversial figure, but not necessarily guilty under federal law. Whew, and there you have it, folks. Monday, June 16th. In the courtroom brought more twists and turns than a roller coaster on turbo mode. We had one juror booted for a double life residency, another under suspicion for loose lips. A legal expert screaming sequester them already. And a big witness with immunity stepping into the spotlight. Diddy's defense team is staying calm, cool, and collected, and the prosecution? Well, they're swinging hard before they rest their case. Will Brendan Paul drop a bombshell? Will another juror mysteriously disappear? Will the court finally hand out no gossiping duct tape? Stay tuned. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe for more courtroom chaos, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next twist in this legal thriller. Because if this trial has taught us anything, it's that anything can happen, and probably will. Catch you in the next episode of the Courtroom Chronicles, Diddy Edition. Until then, stay curious, stay out of legal trouble, and whatever you do, don't talk about the case on the train. Mic drop.